thinking about, they're not thinking like what you're saying, like create projects and like.
They're not thinking of something new to do. Maybe they're thinking of a way to solve what they have or a problem that they're faced with, but I don't feel like they're thinking of something new. They're not idea people.
No, I don't disagree with that at all.
Right.
I think that there's a
That's good, 'cause
minority of people that are concept.
no one's allowed to disagree with me.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Good. That's great to know. Moving forward.
I like that's really good that you don't disagree with me. When do you think your most creative time is? Are you like more morning? Or are you more
Winter.
Winter?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So you
I
have a
think
whole
that-
season.
Well, I've noticed that I'm more introspective, and so it's a darker time of year. It's kind of more like gestation and ideas, and it seems like I work all the time, but it seems like the stronger work comes out of winter.
The stronger ideas?
Oh, the stronger expression. The stronger expression
Well, because you
through
work
medium.
because you work on one piece for so long.
Well, yeah, but I have a number of pieces going though, right? So like for this show, many of these pieces had been in the studio for anywhere from 2 years to 6 months, and I finished them because I had a project to get them done for, right? So I was focusing in on going, okay, I want to get this done. Like, that one, The Unspeakable World.
Right.
That sat around I was looking at the notes, and that was like, I started in 16, I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you're unique in a lot of ways, and a lot more of the artists that I deal with, because you will sit on things for so long. There's only been a couple people that we've had that will say, "Well, I'll work on something for years and years until it's finished." And I don't know when that is yet. And you're sort of one of them. You have an idea of what it's going to be, and you have your notes and stuff. And a lot of times you'll get that final execution, but it may take years to get there.
Yeah, it's all like kind of like inspiration and distraction.
Yeah.
Like, am I being distracted by something else, life stuff or other smaller works?
Do you think you're more inspired by artists or surroundings or both, or? I mean, because you live in Santa Cruz, so you have like this like sort of. And then you've created your own, It's not Mary's secret garden; it's Glenn's secret garden, sort of. You've created your own world to be in.
Yeah, it's a bubble, for sure. But it's a medicinal bubble.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, it's nurturing. And it kind of calms the mind numbingness of the rest of, the civilization, dealing with civilization. I kind of lost the train of thought there.
Well, are you more inspired by your surroundings, or do you look for inspiration somewhere else?
I kind of get inspired by a lot of different things, particularly the older I get, because I'm seeing things even more different, in a more different perception of what it might be that I'm looking at.
Right.
I'm seeing interesting things kind of coming up everywhere. Like I'll see the landscape in the dirt on the floor, or in somebody's expression. I'll catch something. I mean, and most of the work I did has objects on it, so it's kind of object oriented, and that's where the inspiration for those works generally starts with the object, and then it gets articulated visually, and then as it's getting articulated visually, then a narrative seems to kind of come into play. So it's kind of would be the reverse of storytelling,
Yeah. Has it always been that way for you, think?
Well, I worked as more in abstract for quite some time, and there's an abandon that goes on with that. It's kind of interesting because all the different genres and mediums have their dictates moving forward. So moving into the more sculpture, I feel, is a more difficult medium because it's physical and you have to engineer it. And you have to deal with all the physicality of it.
Well, you have to think. You have so many vantage points with sculpture, so you
That's
really
right.
you have to think so much more about it. I feel, and I do, but I think you get more out of it though. I'm not a sculptor, so it's hard for me to think that way. I tend to think of things very flat and very one-dimensional.
Right.
Where I think that's why I like sculpture so much. But it's also why I like your work so much. You're thinking about things so far in the future with whether you find an object, whether the happy accidents happen, I mean, but you're thinking about it so far in the future.
Yeah, or if it sits,
Or, well,
or if it sits, I stop thinking about it, right?
Right.
And then a spark will come.
Right.
Or an inspiration, like a project, like a show to put together.
yeah,
Painting is, because I've done a lot of painting, all different kinds of painting. I've done realism and plein air and abstract and graphic things, and painting is really a much more kind of fluid practice. It's a much more fluid practice. You're working with fluids, right?
Yeah.
It's a much more fluid practice, and in terms of that, there's more ease with it because you can kind of go over what you don't like.
yeah,
Abstractions and realism are two very different practices.
right.
They both have their strong points, and they're both really, I think, very valid. And I think it's valuable in doing an abstraction to have a background in classical training, because then you have this habituated technical skills.
I think that's you really hit it. I can almost tell, I mean, almost 100% of the time when I'm looking at, entries and artists and whatever, you can tell who has either been to art school or who has, had this classical training, or at least has had some sort of, even small amount of art education. You can, in the most, you can tell that in an abstract artist, the amateur versus sort of the seasoned artist. In abstract, you can almost, I almost feel like you can, someone could be naturally good at rendering and they can just take a couple classes and sort of learn the basics of it, but then just make these great, like, hyper realistic sort of images. But I feel like abstract is that thing where you just can't fake it. You can't fake it. You have to put in the work. You have to have some kind of formal education, or you have to have been working at it for, what do they say, the 10,000 hours finally makes you you finally mastered it at that point.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, I think it's like 10,000 hours.
That's like
something.
just an apprenticeship, isn't it?
I think it's just an apprenticeship, yeah. But I do feel like that is, I think you're right, though. Abstract work or even conceptual work, to me, is the hardest to fake. It's the hard, you have to really be, you really are an artist if you can pull that off, or if you can, or your work is sort of, I don't know, how do you put it out there? Like, I don't know. I guess it's just the abstract work is where I feel like I can always tell the phonies. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Well, it makes sense because there's a lot of work that's not very good that I see that's, getting visibility.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
you
where are they
can
getting?
feel it. You can feel it.
Where do you think they're getting visibility?
Well, you see it in rags and whatnot, here and there. And what I'm finding relatively consistency in work that I'm seeing, and I don't see a lot of work, so I have to, segue with that, is that there's a lot of derivative work going on. And what I mean by that is just looking back at artists that haven't been really mined that much by artists. And this particular show I just put up, installed a piece a couple of days ago, and I was going through the show looking at it. It was virtually all derivative. I'm going, gosh, there's nothing really original here.
No.
And that's the way it is.
Well, I think it's a comment on our current culture, though.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's copying somebody, right? I mean, if you look at it, like, if you're talking about technology and you have this viral, like, let's say a video goes viral, and then all of a sudden you've got 10 people impersonating that because they want to go viral too.
Gotcha, right.
I mean, it's just, I think...
That's kind of the nature of culture right
I think it's exactly where we are right now. Which is why I think I liked, when you asked me why I picked you to do a solo show, it's because you do something that I don't see. I mean, even it's been a year since you've been here. And in that year, you don't see anything like what you do. I've seen a lot of people trying to use the upcycled art or found objects, whatever. They're not executing it. It's not happening. It feels like I've already seen that somewhere else. But there's a handful of artists that are really original, and I think
There's something about art education maybe too, right?
I think it says something about art education.
I don't know about art education. I know that I dropped out because that was a long time ago in San Francisco. And I was at San Francisco State, and I was going to do be a ceramics major, and it was it was so social.
Right.
Now there's social media. Then it was like, party and,
Yeah.
weed and,
Yeah.
the whole works.
Get high and hang out.
Get high, hang out, and yeah. And it just wasn't serious, so I quit.
Right.
I quit school because I just wasn't finding the seriousness in it.
But then you had your own education. I mean, you owned,
Oh, yeah,
you owned
no,
your own
no
business.
doubt.
You knew how to work with materials.
Well, that's the thing. I stayed in material. I stayed in
Right.
fluids, and I stayed in surfaces. And that was a big boon because I really learned a lot about all different kinds of materials and other trades. Also collaboration, like working on construction projects, you're collaborating continually with people in schedules and business and profession. And, you can't drop the ball
No.
if you want to have a good reputation. So that's just the way I treat,
Yeah, it's how you
dealing
apply
with
everything.
dealing with a gallery director like yourself or anybody who's interested in the work is to treat them with respect and
Well, it definitely shows. I mean, it comes off in, everything. You're very much a planner. You're very, everything you do, you want to know ahead of time. And
how is that for you?
well, for me, it works out okay. And then, but other times, I like things that are planned but are also organic.
Yeah, right.
I prefer the organic. There's a time and place for both.
Right.
But I'm always that person that wants to try something new too. I want to.
Hence the organic, right?
Hence the organic. I want to
Yeah,
try. I want to try something new and see if it works out. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We won't do it again.
Right.
Or I'll keep at
That's
it.
the artist in you.
Right. Or I'll keep at it for a while till I make it work. But where, do you? I was talking about you like being original and being different. Do you feel like you're different as an artist?
Different than.
Different than the other artists that you interact with.
Yes. I'll blow my own horn. I'm better than most teachers that I've either dealt with or shown with. Don't print this because
It's going on.
I don't want the teachers to know this.
It's going on.
No, I think my work is very powerful.
Yeah.
That there's a power underlying it because I put the effort into it to kind of realize the spirit of, in this case, the objects, and it has to feel finished before it leaves the studio. So it has to feel resolved, and if it doesn't, I don't let it go.
Yeah.
And so, do I feel different? Yeah, I do. I do feel somewhat different in that respect, and also the just the amount of experience I have.
Yeah.
In materials and kind of all phases.
Well, your process is you have a very thorough process. You have a very thorough. I mean, you have a clear vision, right, from start to finish. Whether you're sketching things out. No, I know things will happen and change, but like for someone to keep catalogs like you do, like the notebooks like you do, they're so perfect and tidy and like it's all there. You know what I mean? Even if you see a piece and you don't quite get it, you could refer back to one of your books at some point, and then you're like, oh, I see where that's all coming from.
Yeah, that's kind of some kind of cataloging kind of fetish I have or something. I don't know kind of what that's about. I dig doing it too, and it also kind of informs the work.
Yeah.
Ongoing because I'm kind of thinking about the work.
Well, I feel like that's a testament. I mean, it's a testament to you as an artist, but it's also, because you mentioned like you want to go into museums and you feel like your work is more, it's meant to be seen, maybe more by a public audience rather than maybe just one private person. I mean, you really want to get your stuff seen. I really feel like you cataloging all this stuff, it's almost like you're prepping yourself for your ultimate like museum sort of, someone's going to take on your whole collection
maybe
at
my
some
grandson.
point. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be this, at some point, the Smithsonian's going to be like, Glenn Carter, we have all of his Brooks. They're going to be putting them up next to Da Vinci or something. Like you have this sort of vision beyond, I don't know, maybe it's subconscious, I don't know.
Well, it's probably, as Sarah Palin would say, hopey-changey,
Hopey-changey.
Hopey-changey.
I don't think I'd ever have.
Not the American Indian Hopi.
I think that you're the only person to ever seriously quote Sarah Palin.
That's such a great line.
Yeah, it is.
You remember when she said that?
I don't.
She said it, and she was referring to Obama being in office and all these people that elected him, and the Tea Party was really like picking up steam, and she's going.
Well, and his was hope and change, right?
Yeah.
So
she came back. This was like 2 or 3 years later, and she's at some political thing, and she goes, "So how's that hopey changey thing going for you?"
Oh my God. She was incredibly entertaining.
I don't think she's off the radar yet.
No, but I don't think she's gonna. And she's not really. Is she still a governor?
Oh, no.
I have no idea.
No, she quit that. Remember to deal with McCain.
Oh no, I don't remember. Huh.
Anyway.
Well, you're not Hopi. I don't know that you're Hopi changey.
No, I'm kind of, I have this I really have this sincere belief that my work is really strong and it hasn't, the time's not right for it, right? Culture isn't there yet.
Yeah.
It's waiting for a more enlightened culture, a culture that's more like digging into the human spirit. Like, you show it to Hispanic people, get it. Hispanic people are like, they're with the spirit, right? Because they're from Mexico. I'm speaking of Mexico mostly. And there's other like ethnic groups that see it and they fucking get it, because it's a different, it's not this culture.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, this culture is they have to know exactly what everything is right now. It's very instant. That instant gratification is very much a part of what's going on right now, I think.
Yeah, and there's this culture is not into spirit and consciousness.
No.
It's into like consumer gratification, and it's superficial, right? And it's really like just let's moving on. It's not like stopping to look and be deep.
Yeah.
Hence the chairs, right?
Yeah.
It's like stop. Everything's low. You got to sit down and look at it if you want to look at it.
You know what was interesting? We had. Every once in a while we get an unfortunate group of teenagers in here.
Unfortunate means what does that mean?
That means that they're just teenagers and I don't want to deal with them.
Oh, unfortunate for you.
Unfortunate for me. But we had a group of teenagers in here. And
I thought you were talking about like misfortunate children.
Misfortunate children. No, our underprivileged youth, they haven't visited us lately.
Oh,
no.
gosh.
No, these are just regular teenagers. They've all got their phones and stuff and they come in to see the show. Of course, all of our hairs go up because we just, don't touch anything.
Right.
We're always kind of watching out for them. And they were so interested in taking photos with the work.
That's a thing.
That's a thing.
Yeah.
It's insane.
That's been going on for a couple of years.
But it was quite ironic that they were doing that in front of a piece that was meant to stop everything, sit down, become intimate. And not only did they not have any clue or inclination about that, but they didn't even care enough to ask. They're not even, and they are teenagers. They are. But out of all the places you're going to go, I mean,
maybe this was the first gallery they've been in.
No, I think they were punks. I really do. I just think they're a group of teenagers. They just have no wherewithal. The people that come into this show, I'm using teenagers as an example so that I can talk bad about them, but the people that really, like you were saying, there are certain people that will come in and connect with the work, and we do have people that come in and connect with the work. I mean,
yeah,
I had,
right.
in fact, we had sent out the thing saying last weekend, and make sure you come in, see the show one more time. We really did have. I mean, a couple specifically came in knowing that they were going to miss it if they didn't come in, and they spent a copious amounts of time with each piece, and they really got it and they really soaked it in. I think you're right. I think it appeals.
That's nice. Yeah.
Well, I think it appeals. Congratulations to you. I think it appeals to certain. While your audience may not be vast yet.
Yeah.
The people that it is making that connection with, I do think they're getting it. I think you're getting, or you're at least making them think about it.
No, there's a lot of. I get a lot of positive feedback. I really do.
Yeah.
Wherever I show work from people that see it, and it's people that are taking the time to look at it. And it'll speak to you if you spend the time.
Yeah.
Like the work really is, like I've said before, is I initiate it together. The materials and myself we come together. My spirit, its spirit, the material spirit, and we create a unique work. But the viewer is really the ultimate catalyst to finish the work. And each viewer should have a different experience depending on their memories, their associations with the conglomeration of these disassociated parts.
Do you ever get discouraged when you feel like people aren't getting it?
No.
No?
Well, I generally don't. No, I don't get discouraged by that. I get discouraged by society as a whole not getting it. in that,
I'm discouraged by society every day.
yeah, it's probably most of us are, right?
I think we're all in our own bubble, and we all have an opinion or a view. If you're the person who's thinking about it, you have an opinion on it.
Right.
If you're the person that just goes home and turns on the television and
Somebody else
doesn't
is
think
creating your
about
opinion for
someone
you.
who's creating your opinion. Maybe you don't care as much, but I do think. I mean, if you're thinking about it, you do have an opinion. But I do. I mean, there are artists. I do talk to them on. I talk to artists on a regular basis who they are getting discouraged. Where are they? By rejection from galleries, by people who they feel are rejecting them. But I don't have this wide audience yet. People are getting discouraged because they don't have enough followers on their social media.
Well, that's pretty easy to solve. Get off social media.
Well, there's that, but it also depends. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you're one of the few people, though, that I think that's why your work is, you are creating original work, because you don't give a crap about any of that.
Well, I'm also older too, right?
Yeah?
Maybe older than more of the artists than not that you're speaking of. So there's that. But also there's I know this work is powerful work. I know it's strong. I know it's really good, and I know it's unique. Mm-hmm. And it just has to get in front of the right people for it to take off.
Yeah.
Do I care that it takes off? I kind of do care in a way that it doesn't take off, because then it's all this more stress, right? Then you can say, oh fuck, now I got to create up more work, and now I got to create more work, and it's like, in some ways it's kind of going, this is kind of nice where I am, because it's like, it's the pace is not stressful.
You have so much, though.
You
have so much work.
Oh gosh.
I mean,
so
I wouldn't
much.
worry if somebody's created it. Just
No,
honestly, you
that's a
could
lot,
just
yeah.
change the date and be like, yeah, this is new.
I have tons of flat files I never showed you. I have all this paperwork.
I believe it.
Yeah, like a lot.
I believe it. Well, you brought just the one, I think, with you. That was like.
Well, that piece that was here.
Yeah.
That came out of a series of, that was quite a good piece, but it came out of a series of like 100 pieces that size.
Yeah. That's good. I mean, I don't think you have to worry about not having enough work to show.
No, I have plenty of work, yeah.
Well, you know what? I've had this conversation with a lot of artists where, what is your ultimate, what defines you as an artist? What's your ultimate goal? Like, what's that moment going to be for you where you're like, oh, I'm here, I've made it. Like, this is what I do. Like, what does that moment look like?
I've thought about that.
Right.
It's when it's, this will kind of throw you. So there's probably several of them, but the one I kind of like to cite is when you're a landscape painter. And what I do is kind of landscape figurative work. Mm-hmm. Everything is about that. When you're a landscape painter and you can just sit and look at a landscape, you don't need to touch the paper or brush. It's enough just to look, right? You get that surge inspiration and creative satisfaction from just looking.
You're saying if you're a landscape painter and then you go out and you see beautiful scenery, you don't feel the need to paint it. You can just feel the need to look at it.
Yeah, right. That's fulfillment enough. It's probably similar to a Zen cone or something,
yeah.
like where, it's like you don't, this would be maybe, I don't know if this is a full equivalency, but there's I'll tell you a little story. Is that you like to hear that?
I love stories.
Okay, so this is a pretty good story. So there in ancient Japan there was the school of the no sword, and when you had been a complete master in the samurai schools, then you would go to the school of no sword, where you never have to draw your sword to win a battle. So the master of no swords is on a ferry crossing the lake Kyoto, and there's a drunken samurai on the ferry, and he recognizes this guy. He goes, "I challenge you. We'll fight." And the master of the no sword says, "Well, there's women and children here. Let's take the skiff on the ferry and we'll go to that island." And so they get in the skiff. They go over to the island, and the drunk samurai jumps off the boat and draws his sword, and the no sword guy pushes off and goes back to the ferry.
So he wins and he leaves the guy stranded on island without ever having to try a sword.
So it's like using your mind to
Yeah.
controlling a situation peacefully. I don't know if that relates to looking at the landscape, but in a way it is. The ability you've mastered enough that you don't even need to do it anymore.
So one day you just won't make art anymore, and then you'll feel as though you've been. That's your defining moment as an artist, is when you don't have to create anymore.
When it was decided that way, yeah, by me, not like by the powers that be, but it goes, yeah, this is enough. I don't need to do this.
Is that coming anytime soon?
Probably not.
That's good.
No, I want to keep working.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, because I'm working into this new landscape stuff I was telling you about, and it's kind of exciting because it's some different place between abstraction and landscape that I haven't seen mined before. So it's interesting. It has a real kind of there's an originality I'm sensing that.
Is it going to be more paint, still assemblage, sculpture? Is it going to be just all of the above?
It's kind of collagey, I guess you'd say, with mixed media.
Right.
But relatively flat. Kind of like the triptych up front that was up front.
Yeah.
Similar to that. So it's kind of speaking to something else, and it will have the titles kind of help add a twist.
Yeah, you do put a lot of thought into your titles. I mean, it really isn't, it is part of the piece itself, really. And I don't know if that's to provoke thought or to provoke dialogue or whatever it is. There's people that they're unnamed, they're untitled, the work stands alone. But that's really for you that can be almost an integral part.
It is in some respects. You might recall, like when we were talking about the show and you suggested Seeking Light. Do you remember the title that I was thinking?
Your original title was Shimmer something.
Compelled to Shimmer.
Compelled to Shimmer, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of, what does that mean?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah. For me, Compelled to Shimmer is it feels impulsory. So, you can't help but to make whatever it is, right? You can't help to either make it, or you can't help to look for it, or you can't help to find it. Whatever it is, it just feels as though it's this impulse. That's what I got for it.
Oh, interesting, yeah.
And so, but Seeking Light was just more for me. I was, I'm thinking, I don't know what that's going to look like on a flyer. But for me, I just want to simplify it, slow it down, and so Seeking Light for me still feels as though there's this impulsory sort of tone to it. You have to find this, whatever it's going to be, or you have to look for it. But really it was just a way to it was just toning it down a little bit. Right.
Yeah, because, and I think that was effective, because what I look for in the titles is something that's kind of provocative and poetic, but also has multi-associations.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like the work. It's kind of open-ended.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of the viewer can create their own narrative. Compelled to Shimmer, because I've thought a lot about it since we had that conversation. I thought, what is compelled to shimmer? And really, it's what it is that all living things are seeking light, right? Seeking light.
Yeah.
All living things are compelled to shimmer is a way of specifically what it meant was like light on water. Like water is a medium, light is a medium, and wind is a medium. And in consort, they create shimmer. Fish shimmer. And then I started looking around and I'm going, God, there's all kinds of stuff shimmering, and there's actually everything's vibrating, right? That's what all of this is vibrations, right. Frequencies of particles and light. And that's for me, that's what it was speaking to. So it's kind of this kind of deep living association.
See, this is why you get up at 4:00 in the morning. This is what wakes you up at night right here.
Now, you'd be surprised. I might wake up thinking about, like, money problem. But then I get up and I start doing stuff and I don't think about money problems anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I might, or I will wake up with ideas and I jot them down.
I wonder if that happens as you get older.
I've noticed, I wake up more
Yeah.
when I'm older, as I've gotten older.
I remember being a child and I always thought it was just more cultural than anything else, but now I'm wondering if it didn't have to do something with age as well. But I remember being a child raised by my grandparents, and only my grandfather sat down. My grandmother never sat down.
She was always
She was
busy.
doing something. She had to do something. Folding clothes, doing dishes, whatever it is. She's doing something.
Well, she was maintaining the house.
She was maintaining the house, but she was doing something. She rarely sat down. I mean, and then as I got older now, I notice my mother does that. She doesn't sit down, and she needs to be constantly like fidgeting, entertained. She might, I don't know, her mind might just be racing, but I know she doesn't sit down. And I notice I have started doing that more too.
Oh, interesting.
I sit down to work because I'm doing something, but I notice that if I'm at home, I just don't sit down. And then the moment I do sit down, the mind starts to really get carried, which maybe that's why we come up with our best ideas in the bathroom. I don't know. Maybe that's your only time there's something physically tying you down. You're not allowed to get up. So you're just constantly. That's my theory.
And the good news is if you're up and moving around, I mean, it's good for you, right? Better than sitting down a lot. Really,
it is.
It is.
I mean, it's better than sitting down.
Physically.
Right. I mean, you need to be healthy and get up and move and whatnot. But I do wonder if that's an age thing.
I would say for me it is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is almost a silly question. Do you think you're making your best work now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, my work's getting stronger and stronger. It's kind of a mind blower because I'm doing stuff and I'm going, fuck, this work's just getting better.
Yeah.
And I know it's getting better.
Yeah.
Because I'm really very critical of my own work.
Yeah.
I'm really a strong self-critic, and I'm just critically strong, period, on generally everything I look at. And so I had to do that in my profession, right? I had to be more critical than the clients, because then they can't go, what about this? We just you take care of everything, and they're going, oh, perfect. And then you have repeat business because they trust you. So that's just a habit that I have.
Promise less, deliver more.
What's that?
Promise less, deliver more.
Yeah.
Like, I think I can get you that. And then you just go above and beyond. No, I mean, I even in a year's time, I think your work is stronger. From last year to this year, I think it is.
Well, The Unspeakable World, that piece with the canister, for that, having to finish it for the show, it just all fell in place.
Yeah.
And I told you about that, how I just like went in the back room and there was the glass, and I went, oh, it's just kind of like, it's a serendipity, but it's a serendipity forced by the necessity to complete the work.
I will say the one interesting thing about that piece that I really love was, as big as it was, with a clearly this odd object that you've sort of started with, the big can, right? This huge object, and then this huge piece, and then these layers of glass. The one thing that everybody commented was the tiniest part on that whole piece,
the dots,
which were the red dots going through.
Right.
It's amazing to me. I mean, here you have a piece that's almost 4 feet wide.
Yeah, it was 4 by.
Yeah, you
four.
have this huge piece that you should be able to stand back, soak it in, appreciate the design quality, whatever it is that you look for when you kind of are gazing at this piece of work. But it drew everybody in, and the one thing they commented about was the little red dots. That to me, that's astonishing to me.
Thanks for telling me that, because that's really the essence of where I want the work to be, is where you see it from a distance and it's intriguing.
Yeah.
And as you come into it, you start kind of losing an associative narrative, and so you have to kind of keep approaching it. And then as you come in, you start seeing the detail, and it pulls you deeper and deeper in.
That was such a good piece, though. I mean, and I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad that you finished it for the show. I'm glad that we had it. But it really is. I mean, it really is one of the best pieces.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I love the red. I mean, I just love red anyway. I wonder if that's why I'm attracted to your work. I love the red. It's always carried in somehow. In almost every piece. I mean, it's just, I love it.
That's all part of formal device, right? Red with black and white is always a great device. But aside from that, there's the kind of symbolic quality of it: matter, blood, the essence of life, between the positive and negative of light and dark.
That's going to be your final show. That'll be your legacy show.
Which one?
Your essence of life.
The essence of life.
Essence of life. Everything is red.
Essence of life. Then we can start a product line.
Yes. Then we can.
Perfumes, soaps.
That's right. They'll each have their own Instagram page. Just what Glenn wanted. And
Yeah, right.
just what Glenn wanted and during his lifetime.
Actually, I want to do Instagram. So Olive was here today. And like he's into all that stuff, and he's going, so hey, did you get your?
Well, yeah, he's what, 12, 13?
He's
I'm
right.
kidding.
And he said, did you get your social media thing going? I go, I don't have time for that.
No, I told you that.
And I go, why don't you do it for me? And he kind of didn't get it, but then I heard Jed's going, you hearing what he's saying? Jed's going, you do it. Yeah.
Well, because nobody wants to do it. I hired somebody to do it. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that thing where it's now a necessary evil. It went from fun and new and exciting to a necessary evil. It might still be fun, like I have a personal one. There might be a picture up maybe once a month that's kind of, I want to capture that moment. That was kind of fun, But now it's a necessary evil for the business because if I'm not on top of it, I've fallen behind.
Yeah, right.
Now everything's behind.
Yeah. It's a necessary vehicle, right? I mean,
it's frustrating.
Yeah.
I feel like it takes away.
I bet you everybody's frustrated, but it's like, it's like, we're all junkies, but we can't help ourselves.
Well, now we can't anymore.
No.
Now it's this thing where now it is this. I mean, everyone's attached.
It's a medium, right?
It's very rare. I know one person who doesn't have a cell phone. He still has a landline, no social media. I know one who is completely. He never moved past 1997.
How's he doing?
Loves it.
Yeah.
Happy person.
Well, that's what they say. My son was telling me about somebody who drove across country, and the first thing they did was, no, he didn't drive across something, didn't like bicycled or something. The first thing they did was got rid of their phone. Said after 2 days, man, life was really good.
Right. He's happy.
Yeah.
I would love to do it.
Well, you have a business. That's not going to
I
happen.
have a business, but I have thought about this. How do I do it, right? Do I just leave the business at the business, and then when I'm home, I'm home? I put in a landline. The 3 people who really know me will call me. I might be happier.
Well, there was a time, in the not too distant past where you actually could do that. Now, if you're not available, it's like, I got to go to somebody else.
It's true.
Yeah, because it's like.
It is. It's true.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
We were in Yosemite. We went to Yosemite every summer for camping vacation when I was a kid. And I asked my folks to drop me off in a meadow because I wanted to draw a half dome. And so they did, and I had these like oil pastel sticks and my paper, and I started drawing it in this meadow. They left me there for like 45 minutes, and they came back and I was crying because I had I started it and then it was like so complex, right? I'm looking at this thing, I'm going, I can't. It was like I was spinning out because it was so complex. So I still have that drawing.
Oh my God.
And I think I have a picture of it with something else. So I found this piece of tin in the road that was rusted, and part of the galvanized is left on it. So I paired the 2 of them. So you can see one from like 62, I think I was 10 or 11 and 62, 10, 62, and current. So where this is going. So then when I used to paint by numbers with my mother, and we watch TV, we'd paint religious scenes, Jesus walking on the water, and all this, it was very faithful. And my dad, I would build models, like model cars and airplanes and stuff. So it kind of, this is all leading into like where this current work is. And then when I was 14, I got a job at a model shop, like building their models for them. It was a new model shop, so I made all their airplanes and boats, and then I started entering custom car model competitions. And then I started building these huge boats, like these big plastic models, and you'd rig them, I spent like 100 hours building these boats, like doing all the rigging with thread and string and stuff from the little pulleys going up to pull the sails up and stuff. So there's the thread, right, in the work, the strings in the work,
Yeah.
right? And the objects are the models in the work and all this kind of detail. And it's also kind of leads into the whole cataloging thing too. So,
Are you a builder or an artist?
well, exactly. No, you know, I don't separate them. I'm a gardener too.
Yeah.
And I kind of don't separate any of that.
Yeah.
It's all one thing, right? It's all about inspiration, vision, and creating beauty,
Right.
or looking for beauty to introduce into the creation.
You brought it back.
Cut.
You brought it home.